Hello, in this video I'm going to do some puzzle streak and I want to go at least to 100. So wish me luck and let's begin. In the first position we have this one. The rook on d1 is loose, so I can just take with the bishop on f2, and then if rook takes, then rook takes d1, and I'm an exchange up, so it should be enough. But I think it's a bit tougher for the number one. Here, first let me check if everything is good. Okay, let's just do this. Okay, so in this one we have the bishop and the rook on the same diagonal, so I can give a check to capture the rook, like this. Okay, now we have some back rank problems for black. We can give a check. If king h7, then bishop e4 check. We have to be forcing because queen f2 is a threat as well. So we have to be the first one who strikes. If bishop e4, g6, queen takes, and on the next move we take on g6 and it's over. So just queen e8, king h7, again bishop e4, g6, queen f7, and if queen g7, bishop g6, king h8, and I think with two pawns we just win the game with no problems. Just do this, bishop e4 takes, and it's over. Here I can take the knight. Queen takes queen, bishop takes, and black is a piece up, so I can take it and do this. Bishop takes g3. Can I simply take? Queen takes, king f1, and if queen g2 check, I escape to e1 and d2. I think that's nice. Okay, let's see what's alternative. Alternative is to go to f1, but then I go bishop e5 and black is not just fine. So I take it and I escape to e1. Okay, here we have the king and the knight on the same file, so that means that I can pin it by rook e8 and then win the knight, because there's no way to defend it. The bishop is light squared, so bad luck. Here we have a pawn ending. I can step to d5, and if king e3, king c4 with capturing the b4. If king c3, then I go from the left side, king e4, and then capture. And that's that. Okay, here we have the queen, which is a bit stranded. So the only way to escape is via this diagonal. So we can do bishop b2 to cut this diagonal, and then black has to give up the queen, which we like. Again, trapping piece. Motive, we have rook on a7, which is very unlucky. King b6, we attack the rook, and the rook doesn't have squares, so we do it. We have these two pieces, which we can fork by pushing e5. And if, let's say, queen g3 or queen g4 to attack the bishop, then we take, and if queen g6, we take the knight, and again we're a piece up. All right. We have this check, king h1, and then sacrifice an exchange, but for a checkmate in one move. Okay, the h-pawn is quite advanced, so I can take on f8 to remove the defender of the h8, and then I queen. Quite normal. I cannot capture here because queen a1, but I can pin the knight and also unpin from this threat, defend the rook. And then I take the knight. Okay. The bishop is the only defender of d8 queen, so I can attack the bishop. And if f2, then I take on f6, takes, and I queen with check, and then I take control over the f pawn. Take it, and that's it. Here, the exchange of queens is inevitable, so I can take, and go bishop g2, attack the rook and the knight on c6. So that's quite nice. Here I can go rook c2, and if queen c2, I have fork, and then I take the queen. Here I give a check on h3, and if king g8, I skewer the king and rook. So that's over. What's this? Can I take... If king h8, I take the rook. If rook g7, then I take on f8, take... It seems like I lose my queen because the queen and king are on the same file, but I have bishop h6 in the end, pinning the king and the rook. So this is okay. What's this? Can I take on f2? If king f2, I have fork. Okay, again, I have fork on g3. And I think luckily for me, I have a check on e2. If, let's say, rook f7, knight e2 is with check. Let's imagine that the king is not on g1, that it's on c1, let's say, or on b1. Then rook f7 is saving the game, I suppose. But this way, it's a check, and he's simply losing. This one, I can take king g3, bishop e5, and then I lose. Then I take the rook. Here I don't take fg, I take rook g, and if rook takes hg, because my rook on f1 is loose. So I need this and hg. Okay, this one, I think it's just knight d4, and the idea is if knight takes rook f2, capturing the queen. And also you don't have a way to defend the knight. If you defend by queen e4, I can take on f2 and then take the knight in the end. So this should be enough. Okay, here I take the queen, bishop d8, and first I include knight f3 because I need to capture the bishop in the end. If I take the bishop immediately, then knight e2 just preserves material and it's equal, at least. So I do this, take on f3, and then take the bishop. I exchange, takes, take on e2, and queen next. Here I can give a check on b6 and then take the rook. All right. The queen looks a bit trapped because it can only go on the d file, so it means that I can just trap it by... Okay, not rook d1 because rook hangs, but rook d2, and it has to capture. All right, I have a check on d4, king g8, but there's nothing. But I can go give check on c3 and put the queen on the same rank as black's queen. And now black also has king g8, but now I have bishop f7 and then take the queen. So this over. This smells like some attack on this bishop. Bishop f6, bishop f6, and then if king takes, queen g5, checkmate actually. And if king f8, which is the only remaining move, queen h6 is also checkmate. 29. What is this? Bishop c7 just, and then threaten checkmate. If knight f3, then I just eliminate the defender and it's game over. And yeah, he has queen g1, but now can you find the move? I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds. You can pause the video if you want. And the move is rook f1, deflecting the queen. If queen takes, queen h2. So the poor guy had to play knight f3, but I take the queen. Okay, here. What's happening here? I can take on f4, and if queen takes, I don't exchange. I give a check on c4, on c6, and then take the queen. There's no way to interfere this check, so white is losing the queen. And what else is there? Bishop f4, queen e2, let's say. But I think just queen c6 check, king g1. What can I do actually? I don't see a follow-up on this one. Bishop f4, queen e2. Maybe some queen h4 actually, or no, queen c6, king g1, queen c5. Oh, I have a ladder like zigzag. Queen c5, king g2, queen d5, and then I attack. I do this and attack the bishop. So when this happens, okay, he did that, but let me just show you quickly what I meant. So bishop f4, this was okay, but my idea was after this to go queen c6, and queen cannot cover because I can take on d2. Just exchange and go bishop d2 or bishop d2 immediately, but he can go to g1, and now I have this check. Very nice maneuver. Queen c5. If it goes to f1, I have a discovered check, so that's not a problem. If it goes to g2 or h1, I have queen d5 check. Let's say king g2, queen d5, and in the end I capture the bishop on d2. So that was a small digression. Okay, let's see this one. Number 32. Bishop d6 seems like it's winning, attacking both knights. Knight again, rook and queen. So yeah, just do that and take. Here we have double attack on the king and rook. Rook, not knight. What's happening here? Can I go for something like f5? f5. What happens if takes? Takes. And in the end, I win the f7 pawn. That's the point. and then I have two passers. Because if let's say takes king e7, I have rook e2, and the king cannot keep defending because rook hangs on h8. So it has to go to d7, but then I take, and with two passers on 5th rank, it's tough. And also if king e5, I take on f7. Yeah. If king e7, then I can do this. Rook h7 takes, rook h8, rook h2, and then rook h6, I suppose, and attack this guy. If king f8, king g7, for some reason. Alright, we have three passers, wow. What a position. But I can do something about it. c6, and the king has to keep defending the a pawn, king a8, and then I can go c7. If bishop a6, then I collect these two pawns on the king side, and the h pawn begins marching, and black is stuck with the bishop and king here, because every time you capture on b6, one of these two pawns on a7 or c7 are going to decide. One of the pawns is going to deflect the bishop, and the other one is queening. So we just play this, c7 takes, and that's that. Okay. This position, well, if you want, you can pause the video to solve it, like in every case. I'm just a bit too fast, I guess. So here, the solution is rook h1. And black's dream here is to give a checkmate on h2 with the queen, but currently this h2 is occupied by his own rook. So it has to give itself up by rook h1, the most forcing, and king takes, queen h5, and on the next move, queen h2, checkmate. Okay, we have some slight issues along the way, but nothing too serious, come on. Rook e3, really? We take, and it seems like queen and rook are forked, and black is going to get the material back, but the problem is that his queen is loose on h5. If the queen was defended, let's say if the pawn is on g6 instead of g5, then this would work for black. But unfortunately, when you take on e3, black takes, now we have queen f3. We are offering the trade of queens, escaping the fork, and using the fact that the queen is under no protection. So black has to capture, because also his knight on e3 is under attack. So it means just that black is going to exchange and end up with an exchange down. So that's a bummer for black. Okay, we have some problems here. We have two passers, but also black has something, so we have to be precise. We have to be precise, but how? We can push e6, and if knight d8, then e7, and that's pretty nice. I think the only way to continue is to go king d8, but in that case, c6. And what else is there? Well, not much, because if I push e6, the only moves left are the pawn moves, which are not so good. Let's say g4. Let's say on e6, g4. And I push. So now king has to go to d7, but now it steps into the fork. And then I play c6. And that's game over. So we push. And then the poor guy takes on c5, and then I just take. Okay, we have this one. White seemingly pinned us on the a file, so we cannot capture on b3. Or can we? If I take on b3, takes, rook takes, and now I don't take on c2 because he has rook a1 in the end, defending against queening. So instead of capturing, I go b2, and then there's no rook a1 because I can take it, and you cannot stop the pawn. So I can take, actually. I can take, and it's a pretty good one. Queen a7. Whenever you see the queen so deep inside your camp, maybe you should consider trapping it. And this is also the case. So how to trap it? Well, do this. Rook a8. Attack the queen, and it cannot go anywhere. So it's simply lost. Queen e5. He took our pawn, and our knight on d6 is loose. But luckily for us, we have a small tactic. Not so small, but very effective. We can give a check on e8. And using the clumsiness of pieces, especially these two, the pawn on d5 and the bishop on f5. And why are they clumsy? Where? Well, where? If I go queen e8, king d6, if I give a check on b8, black would like to go to d5 to keep defending the queen, but the pawn is there and there's no way to do that. If it goes to f6, then I have this check on h8. And then, because of the bishop on f5, who says, oh, but I'm here, don't disturb me. Well, then I take the queen. So black is unlucky again. Okay, this one. We have split pawns in the pawn ending. So what do? Well, we use one of the pawns as a decoy to help the other one to advance. In this case, the decoy is the e pawn, which is less advanced. So we push. If king takes, now the b pawn starts marching and it's not possible to stop it. If it goes to c3, then we push this backward pawn, push it to e3, and now we have two contenders for promotion. There's no way to stop both of them. So that's it. We push, and we win. This one, we can go queen h4 and then just threaten some checkmate. Queen c7, yeah, and then e5 just to block the diagonal. He takes, but okay, that's cool. What can we do here? We can take on f2, king h2, and then we can include one more piece in the attack. We can do rook h5, and then go for rook h4, rook h5, and then the king is a bit awkward. So let's check just queen f2, king h2, rook f5, rook e7, rook h5, takes, rook g7. Let's go king f8, rook h7, and then maybe just queen f6 and shut down all the threats of rook h8. That was it. Yep. What is this one? We have double attack on the rook and the bishop. So maybe it's just bishop e2, queen e2. And then rook b8. The knight is a bit awkward on c7 because if I somehow attack the bishop, the knight is not so happy on c7. It cannot get out so easily. So I need to find a way to disturb the bishop first and then to take care of the knight. So if I take on e2, queen e2, rook b8, I guess you need to go... If you go queen b5, then I have queen c7, using the pin on the queen. So, because bishop c7, rook b5, and I'm a piece up, so that's good. Bishop e2, queen e2, rook b8. I think queen e3 or queen f2 is the only viable option, but in that case, even knight d4 works. But maybe let's find something else, like queen b7 also works. The bishop cannot go to a5, so it has to go back, but then I win the knight on c7. So let's just do that. And it's game over. If I went too fast in some of the examples, please let me know in the comment section and I will clarify things that are not potentially that clear. And in this one, I think the main trump is the a pawn, and I think we can just push it. To be honest, just push the pawn, and I don't see a way to stop it. a5, this one, knight d8. I go back to b1 and then start pushing again. But maybe there is... give me a second here. a5 here. Oh, a6. a6 is there, and if knight b7, a7. And the knight is a bit clumsy on b7, and I can queen on the next move without any issues. Yeah, that's the right one. Great. Can I take on f6? That's my question. Can I take on f6? Rook takes, queen takes, exchange up, pawn up. Perfect. If he goes to f7, rook d7, checkmate. If he goes to g7, I have a double check or discovered check, whatever. And then if king g8 or king h7, I give a checkmate on g7. If it goes to f7, I have rook d7 in entry, so this f6 looks quite awful. If king h8, well, then I have a check on h5 and the same outcome will appear, so I don't really see a problem with this. Queen f6 and game over. Great. Can I take on h6? And then take on f7, actually, on the next move. I don't think taking on e5 does anything. I can take with the knight, and black is even better. So nothing of that sort. Knight h6 seems the most logical, and then the knight is under attack, so we just take on f7. Here we have the knight against the pawn, but the pawn is a bit scary. If I push it immediately, king f7, king h6, king g8, the pawn is blocked, and eventually we will have a trade of the f5 pawn. When white captures the f5, black captures the g7, and there's no way for that. So we must support the pawn by king h6 and let's say some random move. A knight c7, well, then I push king f7, and now the point is king h7, and black cannot stop promotion. So we do this, knight c5, okay, g7, and then king h7 with g8 queen. Great. This one, can I do this to attack both pieces? to interfere the c file, to block it. And what's unfortunate for white here is that after knight c3, he cannot move the rook to the second rank to defend the knight, because queen b1 is checkmate in a few moves. So if it goes to c1, then I think I have two options actually. First one is the easiest, I guess, knight f1, capturing, but the second one is also existing. I think queen b2 also works. But I think knight e2 is just much cleaner. So just do this, and then take on c2. Right? Yeah. Okay. What's happening here? f4 is played, and my king is in a bit of a trouble. So I need to react quickly. If I take queen e8, oops, take queen e8, king moves, and then I go queen h5, and it seems like I'm a piece up, and on any check on d2 I have queen e2, just defending, nothing special. Okay, great. Knight g4 here. I need to deflect the queen from the fourth rank, because I need to capture this knight. So I can do it by by a3. And all the squares on the fourth rank, a4, c4, d4, e4, f4, are covered. So when the queen moves to, let's say, e7 or f8, I take the knight with the queen, and that's the end. I take on g4. Great. What is next? What is next? Queen f2? This looks quite strong, because I want to give a checkmate, and there's no rook g2, rook d2, because I take the rook. The only thing that worries me, let's say, is queen c4 check or queen b3 check. But let's work this out. Can I go king h8? Well, then knight g6, king h7, knight f8, but then I take with the bishop. Also, the trick here is, if I go queen f2, queen c4, I don't capture with the king on f8, because there is rook f1, and my queen cannot deliver checkmate on h2 anymore. So I need to step away, not capture this poisoned knight on f8, just step aside to h8, and then survive a couple of checks. Knight g6, king h7, and then knight f8, bishop takes f8, and it's all over pretty soon. He has queen d3 check, but I go to h8, and there's no knight check. Knight is too far from action, and in the end I think that it should work out. So this queen b3 check, similar to queen c4, I go to h8, and yeah, he has to capture my rook to survive. Okay, this one I can give a check on h1, which is very important to not occupy the g1 square for the knight. Because if I go here, we have the same position, but I would like to go knight g1 check. And you cannot have two pieces on the same square because of something that's called rules of chess, I think. So I think just queen h1, king e2, knight g1, and then take the queen. That's over. So here I can take on h3. If queen takes, I do not capture the queen, actually. That's very, I will not say crucial, but very important. If rook bh3, queen takes, I take the rook first. And then queen takes, g takes, and I handle the e pawn quite easily. Because if I just sacrifice 2 rooks for the queen, it's not gonna be enough, and 2 rooks with this pawn on e6, well, it's gonna fall, but 2 rooks against the queen, it's always quite pleasant for rooks in general. So we do this, queen g4, and it's over. 55. Well, I guess I'm fast. So. Knight f5 with a couple of threats like queen h8, knight h6, queen g7 if the queen moves away. So what can you do? If queen g6, knight e7 is unlucky for black. Lucky for white, of course. If queen f6, then I take a piece and bishop and knight against bishop. That's usually a good thing. So just do this. And take it. Okay, what is this? If I take king h3, the pawns go down, so I don't have a check in that case, but I have something nice. And that something is king f4, threatening checkmate on g3. And the only way to stop the checkmate is to exchange queens, but my a pawn is quite advanced. So I'm welcoming this exchange either by queen c1, queen e3 check, or by queen h2 just capturing the queen and queening on the next move. So I can simply take king f4, and now after queen c1 I just cover and give a counter check. And on the next move I just queen and stop the g-pawn. Next position. Bishop e5 check, probably. King h1, and what happens? What happens? I can give a check maybe on e1. With idea of knight g1, queen g3, and delivering some annoying checkmate on h2, because the bishop is a bit clumsier than it should be. Because if the bishop is not on f3, then you can count on knight f3 and saving against this threat. But this way, white is completely tied down, and white has to resort to some rather desperate choices. But let's just put this on the board. So bishop e5, king h1, queen e1, knight g1, queen g3. And what do you do? I think the best choice is to go queen f7, king f7, and then some bishop d5. But even in that case, king g7 and you escape to h6 eventually. Dark squares are covered, so you don't have anything. You can take like this, but it doesn't do anything. Pawn endgames. Yuppie. So black has a couple of pawns up, 2 pawns up to be precise, but the only hope is on the king side, and we can do something about it. Black was a bit uncareful, and he played king c5. First of all, he could have gone d4 and just win on the spot, but also a move like h6 would keep the structure fixed plus symmetrical. And in this case, when this happened, he allowed h6, which undermines the symmetricity of the position. Symmetricity, wow. What a word. So we go h6 in this position. and black has to react. G7 is the weak link of this chain, so it has to capture, because if G6, I take, and the H pawn marches, so H6. If he takes, we don't capture on F6, because king is quite close. King D6, and if F7, king E7, we get in time. But if he takes, we go G6. This is no joke for black, and the G pawn is just deciding. Actually, the F pawn decides, because it becomes the G pawn. So we go H6, G6. Oh, okay, he queens, but that's a delay. So we have this. Okay, Queen E6. My experience in puzzles says it's Queen D6 the answer, because what else to play? Queen E4 is the next move, so there's no checkmate, to be honest. So we go here, and now we have to find the right solution. But what is it? Can we go king c5, and if king c2, to go a5 to fix, to stop b4? And then if king d2, king c4? Or maybe just go king e5, king f4. Why not? He's far from achieving a passed pawn on the queen side, so we can just do this. King e5, king c2, king f4, and try to get to f2, but he can stop us, of course. Let's say king e5, king c2, king f4, king d2, king f3, and then to stop king f2 to go king e1, but then we have king e3 and king d3. After which we use the e pawn as a decoy to get inside of this queen side. And eventually we capture all the pawns. So we do this, king f4, king f3, and that's the end of the puzzle, because we just do what I said. So this one, again, pawn ending, which is quite remarkable. What do we do here? We can exchange immediately, but I think our king is way too far away. Takes, king f6, king d5, king e7 here, king d6, king b4, king c6, push, king b6, a4, c6, a3, c7, a2, queen, queen. It's a draw, because the only way you can win this if the king is if the king is on the edge, but this way you cannot do much. This is not a special case. But we can go king f6. His king is pinned, so we can buy some time by playing king f6. And black is stuck. He cannot enter the pawn ending in a favorable fashion, because if he takes king d3, king c6, king c4, king c6, king b4, king b6, a5, c6, a4, c7, a3, queen, a2, and then we are in time because we queened first. And that's the benefit of playing king f6 first, because we don't allow black to queen simultaneously. And then we get queen c1 in the end. So if I go king f6, king d3, now we have to capture, but it doesn't matter because we achieve the same position as I mentioned before with queening 2 moves before. So if he goes king d3, king f6, king d3, takes, king e6, king d4, king d6, king c4, king c6, we have the same stuff. King b6, a5, c6, a4, c7, a3, c1, queen, a2, and then to just stop the pawn, we go queen c1, and if king b3, queen a1, stopping this pawn entirely, not allowing king b2, and then we just simply move the king down to the pawn, while black only has 2 moves to defend the pawn, but finally when we box the king he will not have b3, so he will have to go to either a4, or maybe if he decides to go to c2, but then we take the pawn and it's over. Wow, I talked too much. So we go king f6, and then just go here. I explained. Here you can pause the video and find the solution, but I can do it immediately for you. I can help you. What's the move here? Well, we can take on e1, right? Takes, and king h2, and then the final blow, rook f1, using this bishop, and then we attack the queen on f3 and also indirectly the bishop on f4, and that's just too much material losses. We take the bishop on the next move, or in the best case I think he has to capture on f1, bishop takes, bishop d6, but it's hopeless because I can just go bishop c4 and I'm an exchange up. So we can do this, rook f1, and like I said, queen takes, bishop takes, and it's game over. Okay, now I feel like I have to be a bit careful when I make decisions. Knight c7. If I go here, I lose my bishop. I don't think it's a correct way. If I take with the rook, queen takes, queen e4. That seems very attractive. Well, I think it's the only move, actually. Go here, queen e4, and then take the rook. I don't have time for moves like bishop a6 because I think rook b8 is just crushing. Knight b8, queen b8, king d7, queen a7, take the bishop. Other moves are too slow. I'm covered on the 8 rank against knight b8 or against queen b8 or queen c8, so I can just take. And that's game over. Okay, 63, wow. What happens here? Can I go queen h8 here and then take? Why not? Well, maybe I can king g6, queen h4, and then bishop d2. Oh, it's pinned. Good luck with that. It's pinned. What a brain. So here, queen h3. Some nasty threats. So if knight f4, rook takes f4, not ef, because in case of ef, queen takes f3, and there's no attack. So I have to preserve the pawn on f3, knight f4, rook f4, and I guess he has to capture on f3, the poor guy. And the end. Okay, this one feels a bit awkward. Can I pin the knight by rook a b8, a6, rook b5, takes, a7, rook b1, and then rook a1. Probably, yeah. Just go here. If knight fd4, then bishop takes, and you're still quite in some trouble. So let's go here. This one, go here, rook a1, and game over. Here, well, the queen looks quite funny on g6. I can go knight f8 and just do some damage. If knight e5, well, I'm not really buying it. Knight f8. Well, he takes and he's off the hook. So I have to go here. And then I guess the only way to continue is rook c5 or something like that. But then queen e7 and I also attack the bishop. Oh, this one. Great. Queen g7. Oh, if I go rook h2, that could be a huge mistake because rook g8 counterattacks my queen. So I have to go queen g7 with the idea of capturing with the pawn and then taking the rook. So what's happening here? Knight d4 looks like it's crashing because if queen g3, then knight e2. Bishop e2, queen g3 using the pin with the bishop. So the queen has to defend g2, so it cannot really exist. I guess you need to capture on g8, but then I capture the queen and it's over. And then just this. Good. Things become interesting. Can I go here and b6 and then king b5? Can I do that? b5, b6, and then king b5, and then start pushing. No matter what happens in the center, let's say b5, e5, I go b6. Well, maybe I can take and then go b6, actually. But I wonder, can I go king b5 and then a6? I don't think so. In that case, e5 is quite convincing. I think it's b5 and then I have to put all my pawns on dark squares to support with king b5 and then win, I suppose. Just b6. Wow, this one. Okay. Well, that was something else. Here I give a check, king g1. Oh, what is next? Oh, queen d4. Okay, queen d4, and if king h1, rook d1, back rank issues. If king f1, queen f2. Great. This one. This is interesting. So I push c7. He goes rook c4, and then I can go. Wow, this is so nice. King f1. And then my point is I want to get the king out in the open to some check, either on f8 or h8. And if it stays on g4, it's safe, but I can just lure it. I would like to go f3, but it has king g3 and it's, I would guess, a draw. I think I cannot win this. So I need to get the king to g2. So after f3, there's no king g3. So it has to go to the f or h file, which means that he is losing because he loses the rook. So I go c7 first. Now the rook has to control the c file to make my rook paralyzed, but then I just move to g2 and it's over. Oh, but he does that. I missed that. And then rook c7, that's clever. But then I go here and again, you don't have a way to trick me. Here, rook c7. Rook e7, king g2, rook f7. Well, maybe I'm a bit mistaken here. No, but wait. Whoa. Wait, king f1, rook e7. Oh, arrows are off the charts. King g2, rook f7, let's say, to be able to get to the f file. But then I push f3. And then king f4. Ah, but then I don't have a good way. Wait a sec. Here, rook e7, king g2, rook f7, f3. It's not very easy. King f1, rook e7, king g2, rook f7, f3. I don't know what's the point here. Oh, do you just get to d3 and then go up? Oh, that's the solution. Oh, completely missed it. But wait, what's wrong with just king d2? Ah, maybe then he has time for king d2, rook c4, and then just go back. So let's try this again. King f1, rook e7, king g2, rook f7, f3, king f4, but then he has g4 in the end, and he's exchanging a lot. Okay, let's go. Ah, mouse slip. Okay. Well, I should try again, right? See you. See you soon. Bye.